Brick Cats. My channel is for anyone who enjoys custom LEGO creations, likes saving money, and or those looking to get into custom building. If you're a fan of my channel or are interested in supporting what I do, please consider liking this review, subscribing, or leaving a comment. Each like, subscription, and comment helps others find my channel, and I greatly appreciate your support. Today, I am reviewing Jastabrick's minifigure scale rendition of Anakin Skywalker's Podracer distributed by BrickVault. If you're interested in building this or any other BrickVault model, you can take 15% off the cost of your order by using my discount code CATS15. I do receive a small amount of compensation when you use my code, and this is an amazing way to support the channel while taking the bite out of the price of the instructions. Without any substitutions, in late March 2025, I was getting 4 stores and $65 without shipping and tax, or about $94 with shipping and tax. In my reviews, I offer my opinions on aesthetics and model features, parts issues you might want to look out for, the build experience, the model's integrity, and I close out with my overall impression and pricing information in a conclusion. If you're watching this review, I assume you bought the instructions or are interested in buying them. I also assume a basic level of familiarity with Bricklink's ordering system and LEGO nomenclature. I only use genuine LEGO bricks and I always purchase the instructions. I create these reviews for my own personal enjoyment and in the hopes that my advice will make your experience more enjoyable and or less expensive. The Podracer measures 14.5 inches front to back, 6.25 inches wide, and about 3.75 inches tall. Starting with the engines, each engine has the 3 air scoops on fingered hinges that contribute to the model's posability. In canon, these air scoops improve the Podracer's braking and cornering ability, and we see a little bit of this in the pod racing scene. These are the official stickers from set 75258. The model looks good without them, but they do have a nice little detail. The 2 turbine engines have this printed tile in front of a Technic gear, and I really like how that looks as it gives the turbine blades some depth. The yellow bionicle eye is the perfect piece for the drive energizer as well. The next major feature is the energy binder. I like how this looks, and in general it's pretty solid, but this is the part of the model that causes a bit of instability on mine. With the engines being at slightly different heights, the angle causes this to not connect quite right. There's just a little bit of play in the engine connection, so it's mostly just a matter of getting the angles right, and it's pretty solid. The rest of the engine has some nice detailing with the spill air doors represented with yellow flippers. These can extend and contract. There's some ingot elements to create additional texture and the connection points for the control cables. The flames coming out of the port engine are specified for a bit of asymmetry and to recreate the specific moment in the pod race, but these are easily removed if you don't want them. The rear of the engine with the thrust stabilizer cone looks good, with the exhaust fans represented with 1x1 modified plates with clip elements. Underneath each engine there's some dark red detailing, and like I said earlier, the engines sit at different heights off the stand. This contributes greatly to the model's posability and gives it an extra sense of being in motion, as in the movie the 2 engines are bobbing up and down quite constantly. The engine control cables are the 3mm rigid hoses and connect fairly solidly at both ends. The cockpit has great detailing with the side building on the front section. The flared hull is done simply but effectively. There's a lot packed into a small space here, and the cockpit includes the control sticks and a printed slip piece. A minifigure can sit in here. I find the boy Anakin figure sits too high even with the short legs on, and there's no connection for the legs anyway, so I think it's most accurate if his legs are off and he's low in the cockpit. The Podracer could detach from the stand if you really want to. I'm not exactly sure how you'd hold it as the hoses aren't rigid enough to support the weight of the cockpit module. The stand is fairly simple and does exactly what it needs to, providing a stable base for the model while looking good tiled off in black. For a smaller model, I think Anakin's Podracer is really well done. There's a lot of things you can adjust to make the model look like it's moving, from the front air scoops to the spill air doors, and the offset engine height immediately makes this more interesting to look at than if they were level. Anakin's Podracer requires 129 elements and 484 pieces. The stand elements are included in the parts list, which makes sense as the model can't really be displayed without it. There's one small change I think you should make immediately, and that's to change the color of the windscreen 2x4x1 curved part 81911 to trans clear. I think trans clear is the most screen accurate, and luckily it's also the most common color. The most expensive element in the vanilla parts list is most likely going to be the 24L 3mm hose in pearl dark gray, element 75C24. In my Bricklink results, these were averaging over $7 each. I recommend switching these out for the 23L hose in dark bluish gray or flat silver. The color doesn't make too much of a difference. In the movie, the control cables are some shade of gray, but you can't really tell, and these two colors are much less expensive and more widely available in the 23L length. This does create a small issue with the placement of the cockpit. I moved it slightly forward by adding two 1x2 black tiles, part 3069, one 2x2 black tile, part 3068, and removing one 2x4 tile, 87079. This allows you to move the black jumper plate forward one stud. The other rare element is the bar with light bulb cover in yellow, part 58176. Before the Peely Bone set released in 2024, this element only came in yellow in one set. With the re-release of this element, maybe it'll make it to Pick-a-Brick someday. In the meantime, these are going for over $2 each on Bricklink. If you want a substitute for these, I recommend 4 yellow 1x1 round plates, part 4073. It won't look quite the same, but in my opinion, if you're cost conscious, it's good enough to save $4 on the parts and probably eliminate a store. The sticker sheet is not specified in the parts list, and I didn't include it in my price analysis, but if you're interested in that Bricklink part number, it's 75258 STK01. These are fairly widely available and average around 70 cents in the United States. Despite this model being relatively small, Pick-a-Brick does make a big difference by virtue of a large percentage of the parts being available and coming in right under the threshold for free shipping. I'll go over that in the conclusion. And as usual, I used the Brick Hunter extension to check the entire parts list against the Pick-a-Brick inventory. I do have an affiliate link that gives me a small percentage of the value of your purchase, so thank you in advance if you choose to use it. Instructions for Jastabrick's Anakin's Podracer consist of 154 steps with each part or subassembly added outlined in red against a white background. This is fine for visibility and it's usually very clear where the pieces are being added. The designer has included some notes throughout the instructions with helpful information on how far to insert certain pieces or where there are supposed to be gaps. I always appreciate this, as removing uncertainties like this is always very comforting. There was only one step where I had a viewing angle problem, and that's number 105. The second blue cheese slope is hidden from view, and it goes right next to the light bluish gray slope. In general, I found the engines to be a little bit tricky to build just because there are a lot of rotations you need to keep track of. You also need to pay close attention to the alignment of certain subassemblies in relation to other elements and landmarks. So on the engines, just take it a little slower than you might otherwise and you'll be fine. Finally, I had some trouble getting the cones onto the bars for the energy binder. This is because putting a translucent piece on a translucent bar is an illegal connection, something about the clear plastics being more malleable and thus very difficult to separate later. So in that sense it's not ideal, but it's certainly doable with a little bit of patience and some elbow grease. And being a small build, this took me about 3 hours start to finish without any pre-sorting of pieces beforehand. This model is intended as a display model, so while the Podracer can detach from the stand, you're not really going to want to do that. Each section connects to the mounting subassembly. I will try and show you here. And that's a clip to a 1x1 plate with bar, round plate with bar. And this is stable enough for display and also allows for some limited angling of the cockpit and the engines. So this does move a little bit, as do these. Of course, it's connected with the energy binder, so you kind of have to move these in tandem. And you have to be careful of disconnecting the round plates here. The cable connections at the cockpit end are a bit tenuous, but the 3mm rigid hoses are pretty sturdy, and I don't find these coming off very easily. These fin connections on the cockpit likewise are a little bit fragile, but easily fixed. And there can be some uncomfortable flexing if you're adjusting the air scoops, but if you use two hands you can minimize that pretty easily. So overall, this is a decently solid model that doesn't have any weak spots that are immediately obvious, and this does stand up to some pretty casual shaking. If you bump this or you bump your shelf, you're not gonna have this flying off into pieces or anything like that. So yeah, very stable. Jastabrick's Anakin's Podracer achieves a high degree of accuracy with a small number of pieces. There's a number of nice posability features, and the model overall looks great. Thankfully, due to the small piece count, it's also not very expensive. Like I said in the introduction, without any substitutions, I got 4 stores and $65 without shipping and tax, or about $94 with shipping and tax. With the 2 substitutions for the bionicle eye and the cables, this dropped down significantly to 3 stores and $58 without shipping and tax, or about $80 with shipping and tax. Finally, going full Pick-a-Brick drops the price even lower, mostly because the elements available are just under $35. My Pick-a-Brick total was $37. I bought an extra $1 worth of parts from Pick-a-Brick Bestseller to get free shipping, and then the tax put me up another $2. The elements I would have to get from Bricklink, I would be able to get from 3 stores, about $12 without shipping and tax, and that comes to about $30 with shipping and tax, and there were 28 elements. And the total was $67, or about $27 less than the vanilla parts list. Instructions for this model cost $13.99 from BrickVault's web store. There will be a link to where you can buy those in the description below, and remember you can use the discount code CATS15 for 15% off if you haven't used it already. BrickVault runs sales fairly frequently, so keep an eye out for one of those if you're on the fence. My code does work even on sale items, and it's good at one time per email. Thanks as always for watching my review of Anakin's Podracer by Jastabrick. If you've built the model, you have something to share that I left out, or have a question about something I didn't cover, please leave your thoughts below in the comments. I'm very conscious that subscribers are earned and not deserved, so if you enjoy my content and want to see more, consider subscribing, leaving the video a like or a comment, or follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. Thank you, and I hope to see you back next time.